planned with a new acquaintance of mine and kind of a fellow person in this market space and conversation around systems and how we use them to scale. I've got my new friend, Ravi Abuvala, on the podcast. Ravi, what's up?
What's going on, Richard? Thank you so much for having me on here. Yeah, pretty funny. I'm sure you're going to get into how you and I got connected in the first place and became friends. So I'm super excited for that. Everybody that's listening to this, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And I hope I'm able to add some value to you today.
Yeah, man. Well, there's already been tons of value in kind of the pre-roll conversation we were having, so I have no doubt about that. Just to give you a quick intro for anybody who doesn't know who you are, if you're not already following them around on YouTube, Ravi's the founder of Scaling with Systems, a business accelerator which works to bootstrap and really scale their clients' businesses, leveraging automation, overseas assistance. And they really focus on building like incredible lead generation and marketing machines for their clients that allow them to work less and make more, right? So Ravi has scaled 2 7-figure businesses with less than $1,000 of his own capital and 4 commission-based employees, which is pretty incredible. So he's worked with over 800 firms around the world, placed 730 virtual assistants, and spoken on some of the largest stages in his industry. So Ravi, that's a quick intro for you, man. And really, man, I would love, that's kind of the stuff you say from the stage, man, but there's always a story behind the spotlight on the stage, man. So how did you kind of get into this world of teaching others how to scale their businesses using automation and systems? Where did that start for you?
Yeah, it's an awesome question. And I absolutely hate when people read my bio. I had it professionally done. And then I'm like, I don't know. It's always so uncomfortable for me, but you did a good job at it. But a really, really, really long story short, I essentially was always going to be a lawyer. That was like the plan my entire life, like 9 to 5, be a lawyer, become a partner. That was just what my family wanted for me. And so I graduated college, and in order to go to one of the top law schools in the nation, you have to study for what's known as the LSAT, Law School Admission Test. And so for me, I decided to take a year off to study so I can get in one of the top schools in the nation. Few days after I graduate, my dad's diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And so I end up like getting thrown this curveball. I ended up having to move in with him in Atlanta, Georgia, and which is what everybody wants to do after they graduate college, right? Move right back in with your parents. And I ended up moving in with him. And then for an entire year, Richard, I'm literally taking him to chemo and radiation 5 days a week from 8 a.m. to about 6 p.m. And then as soon as we get home, I am studying for law school, the LSAT, until about like 7 o'clock until midnight. I did that for an entire year, and it really taught me a lot about discipline. It taught me a lot about sacrifice, and near the end of it, my dad hit his first remission check. So we've had 3. He's been in remission for 3 years now, so I'm super grateful for that. And yeah, just so everyone knows, I always forget to tell that stat. So he's been in remission for 3 years now, about to be 3 years. So we're excited about that. But as we came to the end of it, I realized like, I don't really know if I want to do this law school thing, right? I'm like in this chemo and radiation unit with a bunch of other like young people, like people in their 30s who kind of were doing that sacrifice, working, getting, years of experience working for somebody else. And I was just having conversations with them. And I realized that, if you're watching this right now and you're alive and, if you're in the United States as well, we live in arguably the most opportunistic time in civilization. I don't give a what about the election or about pandemics. It is incredible to be alive right now. And that just started dawning on me. And so I remember I took the test because I had spent about 18 years arguably preparing for it. And I got into actually some of the top law schools in the nation where I was supposed to go. But I just walked downstairs one day. I was like, Dad, I'm not going to go to law school. He thought I threw everything away. And I Googled how to make money online. Got retargeted by a Ty Lopez ad, ended up joining his SMMA program, started an advertising agency. First 8 months of it, like awful. I mean, $3,000 in 8 months of business. It was like totally brutal. And I thought that I did make the mistake, but then kind of like a lot of the stuff that you teach, Richard, I started learning about systems and delegation and virtual assistants and all that kind of stuff. And so I hired my first virtual assistant in August of 2018. And literally never looked back. We had a $10,000 a month and a $30,000 a month, and then it kind of took off. And from there, I just started traveling the world and, living that kind of quote unquote 4-hour work week lifestyle. And a lot of my friends were messaging me going, how did you do this? Like we were in the same area, 4 months ago. Now you're here. And I was like, oh, well, really, it was just like these SOPs and this virtual assistant and cold emailing. And I just started slowly teaching people. And then that really snowballed and like just as you know, I'm sure, as a true entrepreneur at heart, like, I never wanted to be like the coach or consultant or anything like that ever. I thought those guys were scumbags. But like people just were banging down on my door. I was just doing referral base and they were just banging down on my door. And I was like, there might be a need for this. So anyway, about a year and a half later, like I said, we've helped over 800 people at that point. Some really, including sharks from Shark Tank. Kevin Harrington's a client of mine, and had an absolute incredible time doing it. So I know that was a long story, so I tried to kind of condense it down. But that's how I went from like law school to dropping out to essentially where I am today.
Bro, I love that story so much. And what I love about it, man, is like it demonstrates a couple things, right? First of all, your mindset about it being the most opportunistic period in history is so in line with, I even got that sense when we were coming into the COVID pandemic that like this was actually going to precipitate a wave of opportunity for entrepreneurs. Even it would accelerate it, not dampen it, right? It would actually accelerate it. And that's what I see happening for so many people is they're realizing like, dude, it's go time or no time. Like you got to do something. And I see a lot of people stepping into that gap, but it also demonstrates, man, like the cost, right? You were willing to pay the price and work 8 months, maybe not even working the smartest way, but you were willing to like push through because this kind of experience with your dad had sort of just drilled something into you that you wanted a different life. Right. And, I just think that's such a cool, example, man, of kind of what it takes. Right. And so, dude, we celebrate that with you. I'm curious, man, with that, I'm curious about when you look at, like recently we were just talking about something really difficult you went through. And I think a lot of people, man, who are listening, especially people running service-based businesses, they've taken some haymakers this year. Right. So, can you talk, man, a little bit about one of the haymakers that you took recently and then kind of how your mindset, where that led you and what you did to kind of get up from that hit you took?
Yeah. So, and I love what you just said a second ago as well. And I want to let everybody know, if you haven't read, there's an incredible book by the name of a gentleman by the name of Ryan Holiday called The Obstacle is the Way. And like, you'll read it. And I read it right at the beginning of like everything that's going on right now. I'm so used to running ads that I don't actually say the words of it because then I can't run ads for it. So I don't actually say what it is, but everything that's going on right now. And it just instantly, I was like, this is going to, just like you said, Richard, present opportunities here. Like this is going to increase people's problems, which if you're an entrepreneur, you're literally paid to solve people's problems, especially if you're in a service-based business. And so I was like, this is going to be great for us. And yeah, I mean, even in the past few months, I've been punched in the face, multiple times, but I look forward to that kind of stuff now because it just, like I said, it'll just lead to something even better. And if you've been hit in the face enough, you're kind of aware of it. But what Richard's referring to was a year ago in October of 2019. So after I had launched Scaling with Systems, my consulting company, I had Prospect Social running. We're at this point, we're spending close to $300,000 a month in paid ads on Facebook between my clients and my consulting company. And I get, as everyone here has probably experienced, or if you haven't, you're going to experience the ban from Facebook. And it was pretty difficult. And the thing about Facebook is that there's no rhyme or reason. There's literally, you don't know why. I wasn't like scamming anybody. I wasn't like doing anything terrible. I see people making bolder claims and crazier things online than I ever did. And like, I consulted some friends of mine that run massive advertising agencies, and I had a Facebook rep, and he's like, "There's nothing you can do. Like, you're banned." And immediately, our traffic source just went from like, I was selling, a few $1,000 program, and our cost per acquisition was like $100. I mean, our cash return on investment was like 10 to 30 times, which anybody in the marketing space is like, you're literally printing money at that point, like the U.S. Treasury. And so for us, it was like a real blow in the stomach. And also to not know why, it was really difficult. So long story short, like I said, obstacle is the way. So I just started, there's no sense in crying over spilt milk. So I started learning how to do organic. So I had already scaled using outbound. That's kind of one of the things we teach. We give our clients $2.50 an hour, fully trained virtual assistants to do outbound messaging for them. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, email. So we're doing hundreds of those a day, but you get a little lazy when you have like a good paid traffic source coming in. You know what I mean? It's like, you're just like spoiled. And so that's what we were for a while. And so it hit us in the stomach, and our revenue went down for a little bit, but what I was telling Richard before this is like, I was just forced to just hone in our outbound messages, which ended up really translating to success for our clients. I was forced to start building like communities online. So I have a Facebook group now with a few thousand people. We're growing by almost 1,000 people a month right now. I created a YouTube. I bought into a YouTube organic program to learn how to create a YouTube channel, how to rank for certain keywords, and how to start generating appointments from that. Now we do 6 figures a month just from my YouTube organic channel, right? And then once again, I'm now teaching this to my clients inside of my program as well. And so and then I've been on podcasts, Neil Patel's podcast, Entrepreneurs on Fire. I've been on over 100 podcasts in the past year, trying to like drum up business and get some of this organic content going. And ironically enough, I met Richard because, now we're doing multi 6 figures a month organically for my consulting company. And now I feel like most people do paid and then they try the organic stuff because it's really difficult and it takes time. We were forced to do the organic stuff, but now we're operating at like 75% profit margins. And now I'm starting to layer back on. I joined a mastermind for YouTube ads, which is actually where I met Richard, because I didn't want to join YouTube ads because I'd spent so much money on YouTube and consulting and not seen an ROI. And I was like, I'm not going to drop this amount of money because it's a considerable amount of money until I know that this works and you have to connect me with somebody. And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm just telling you, I will pay full pay today, but you have to connect with somebody. And then like finds Richard, who's like me, an identical person of me. And I'm like, oh, this is fucking perfect. So that's how Richard and I got connected anyway, long story short. And so now we're putting paid ads back on top of it again. So literally if I have my name associated with a Facebook advertising account, it'll get banned immediately. And so we were forced to kind of create this organic side of it and build this community. But like I said, translate it into wildly high profit margins, and then all the information and knowledge that I learned, I'm now able to give it to my clients as they get their, business accounts kind of shut down through Facebook.
It's incredible, man. Such a cool story of, again, taking a haymaker and then the obstacle is the way, man. Like using that to your advantage to go, okay, how can I turn this problem into an opportunity to grow a different way, right? And learn new skill sets and overcome, right? Because the people we become in the overcoming, those are the people we actually want to be. It's not the people that comfort creates, right?
Sure.
It's the people that obstacles and overcoming create that we actually ultimately want to become. And so we can embrace that and welcome that. And it's cool, man, because when you were talking, it made me think about how even recently, not to the level you guys experienced, but when we hit Q4, especially leading up to the election, our ad costs skyrocketed. Right? Like it was just, if for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the niche or vertical we're in or how we're targeting or whatever, but we're talking like before our margins were great. And then suddenly we had like no margins or barely any margins on our ad spend. And it made me realize very quickly the danger of being over dependent on any one thing. Right. And that really caused us to double down exactly like you're doing. I'm sure there's a lot we could learn from you. I'll probably ask you some questions in a minute, but it really caused me to like look back at some of the things we did earlier on that actually made us successful that we'd gotten lazy at because we had that paid traffic source to depend on, and really go back to those things. And it was like as soon as we clicked back into gear and really focused on those, we got results. And this is one of the things, man, I think entrepreneurs are so bad at sometimes because we love new, is like we do something, it works, and then we stop doing it. And it's like, it's crazy, but
it's actually wild. Yeah, it's called complexity creep. We talk about it all the
Right.
time. It's like you forget, like you're like, it can't be this simple. I got to do more. I got to make this more complex. Like it could be whatever your service is. It could be how you're getting clients or lead gen service. It could be like how you fulfill it. But whatever it is, you're like, okay, I've done this one thing up until this point, but there's no way this will continue working from this point on. So let me add these new softwares and these new programs and these and like. Anybody that's ever experienced this before, like my COO literally jokes with me. He's afraid to ever bring new things to me, not in a bad way, but just because I'm like, we don't need it. Like, I'm just like, nah, we don't need it. We don't need it. Let's just stay focused. And like, yeah, we call it complexity creep, which is just the idea that like, as you grow and scale, things get more and more confusing and you just have to kind of keep on pushing back against it and just staying true to the stuff that worked up until that point.
Such a good principle, man. I love that. Complexity creep. So for anybody listening, man, who is a service-based business, right? And they've taken some haymakers, right? Q4 ad costs, Facebook ban, whatever it is, right? They've taken some haymakers. Maybe they had a physical location that they can't operate out of. Maybe they're restricted in the types of service they can offer, or at what volume, or with a certain amount of people because of the pandemic. With that in mind, like, what are you seeing working right now for service-based businesses? Where, like, if you had one or two kind of back pocket strategies for them to kind of continue to grow despite the punches that have been thrown at them, what comes to mind?
Yeah, so a few things come immediately to mind. So the first thing is like just like I had said at the beginning of this, if you are experiencing this problem, almost everybody else is experiencing this problem as well, right? And you're only paid to the value that you provide the marketplace, to the size of the problems that you solve in the marketplace. And so like we had a lot of people, like for example, gyms. I have a client of mine that ran an actual local gym in Sarasota, Florida, and he joined Scaling with Systems to kind of figure out how he could kind of pivot online and still make money and still keep his gym open. What ended up happening is within a few weeks, we had solved his issue by leveraging paid advertising, sales funnels, online coaching classes. I gave him the scripts to upsell people, downsell people, and he starts making more money online than he ever made at his gym without all the overhead costs that are associated with the gym. And then what he did, because he's a very smart guy, is he then now pivoted and is now teaching other gyms how to do the exact same thing because that's a major problem in the marketplace. So like the first thing you should focus on is solving this for you, because I guarantee you that everybody else in your industry is having the same problem. One of my good friends says like, usually when you start a business, the people that you're helping are whoever you were like, 6 months or a year ago, right? Because like
Yeah.
you solve that problem yourself. And so instead of trying to just delegate it out, like work on figuring out, like, work with Richard or whatever it is, work with somebody who knows what they're doing and figure out how can I solve this problem? Then you solve the problem for you. Then you can go out and actually solve that problem for other people. So that's the first thing I challenge everybody here is like to embrace this problem is like, man, if I can crack this code, like, I'm going to be light years ahead of everyone else. And then you can charge people accordingly. And the second thing I'd probably say is kind of similar to that, but it's starting to focus on digital delivery, right? So no matter what you're in, what industry, whatever it is, you can always benefit from digital delivery. And digital delivery is like a course, a coaching program, like, Zoom calls instead of having an in-person event, whatever it is, having an app deliver a lot of the stuff that you do. And what that does is it's not only more efficient for you, your company, your cost, but it's a lot of times more efficient for your clients as well. And so like people that were doing this gym example that I gave you as well, like, he had thought about using some of the online classes and online things, but like we kind of talked about, until it really gets painful, you never actually take any change, right? You never actually make any changes to kind of the style you're doing things. And so he was forced to do it. And it ends up that his clients actually like that more than having to drive and go to the gym every single day. And they're able to do it from home. And he's also able to add in meal plans at no additional cost because like it really doesn't cost him anything more. And he can deliver it in the same platform that he's delivering everything else. He's building a Facebook community now of all of his gym people as well. And so now like he doesn't have all this overhead, the actual gym space. He's talking about not renewing his lease. He doesn't have to have all these employees, and he can run a multi-six-figure gym all from his home. And so like start focusing on, if you have an online or if you have a service-based business, especially brick and mortar, how can I start systemizing the back end so I can start delivering a lot of this stuff online? Or how can I streamline the back end process so that I don't have like, I'm not offering 50 things and I have to have a specialty contractor for every single thing. We offer one thing to one certain group of people and just become the absolute best at it.
So good, man. So many good nuggets in there, right? Like, first of all, right, like understanding how to sell online, understanding how to deliver online, right? And then really using the obstacles, as we've said, as an opportunity to streamline, simplify, and really think about how do I make this more efficient for us, more efficient for the people we serve. And, it's never been easier actually to do that when you leverage systems, you leverage technology. One of the other things, man, that you guys obviously specialize in is using virtual assistants. You've mentioned that a couple times. Tell us, man, for a service-based business, I know that a lot of the clients we even talk to are very sort of aware, like, oh man, I should probably be using some virtual assistants, or maybe they've tried in the past and it didn't really work out for them. Like, what would you say, man, are like the one or two or three kind of principles or tools that you found allow service-based business owners to effectively leverage virtual assistants? How do you guys go about that?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So yeah, when I said I made $3,000 in the first like kind of 8 months of business, what changed was the systems and a virtual assistant. I hired my first virtual assistant, and they started doing full time outbound prospecting for me, stuff that I absolutely hated, right? Cold calling, cold emailing, cold LinkedIn, and like that was happening every single day, whether I was doing it or not. And all of a sudden, it's just like my calendar. I mean, that's the secret to really growing a business is just having a packed calendar. And so like that's all you like. You just need more appointments. And so that was somebody that was full-time job was to keep my calendar full. And because I realized that was a real key part of it inside of our company scaling with systems, I did until this happened. I had a 30,000 square foot training facility in the Philippines. Now we do everything virtually. Once again, I'm learning how to do it virtually too. Now we do everything virtually, but like I said, we've placed over 700 virtual assistants for our clients. And we take them through an entire training process, and then they come out knowing how to do lead generation, lead conversion, lead fulfillments, whatever you kind of need for your business for $2.50 an hour, which is a competitive rate in the Philippines. It's not like we're taking them for their money here, but some of the things that you need to be aware of whenever you're doing it is like number one. We always talk about hiring on soft skills, training on hard skills. So a lot of people look for, especially with some of these service-based businesses, this is going to be their first employee. And so they're thinking, oh, I need someone who's great at cold calls. I need someone who's an expert at cold email. I need someone who's an expert at Facebook ads. But the issue is that they don't actually enjoy working with them, and they don't really buy into the vision. And so, they're constantly having to spend their time manage a virtual assistant or making sure the virtual assistant is working or worrying if the virtual assistant is going to steal their information. Where we kind of talk about, we've done over 1,600 interviews where it's like, find someone that, it sounds cheesy, but find someone that you get along with, that has a vision, that like is not just there for the paycheck at the end of the week, but you're asking them, hey, what's your goal inside of this company? Why do they want to send their kids to private school? They want to be able to buy a home. Like, start to actually understand what they want, and then ask them if they understand what you're doing in your business, what's your long-term vision, that kind of stuff. And then once they buy into that, anybody can do Facebook ads, anybody can do cold emailing, anybody can do cold calling. And it's a lot easier to find people that you actually enjoy working with on the soft skills and then train them the hard skills than a lot of people do, which is finding people that are good at the hard skills. And then like after you've worked with the person, you realize like, I don't really like this person, but I need to have that cold emailing happen. So I'm just going to imagine they're not a real person living somewhere else around the world. So that's one of the biggest things I see. The second thing that I tell everybody, it's on my trainings on my website too, but it's like, a lot of people think that a virtual assistant is just like cure-all fix. Oh, I'll hire a VA and everything goes good. And then the people that have had bad VA experiences, most people don't take responsibility for their own actions. And so they're like, oh, it's the VA's fault. It's not my fault. When in reality, if you need to hire a virtual assistant, there's probably some things going on in your business that are a little like chaotic or complex. And so some of the stuff that I know Richard does as well is like, you should be distilling down your business to kind of standard operating procedures or systems, and then having that in place before you hire the virtual assistant. Because if you don't know what you're doing and then you hire somebody else and then you expect them to all of a sudden know what they should be doing, like you just kind of have like two chickens with their heads cut off running around in circles. You got the blind leading the blind at that point. So it's actually identifying like, okay, what needs to happen to my business? Like, what do I need to do? What does this other person need to do? And then whenever someone gets onboarded, you giving them those like, hey, I've done this. I know it works. This is the thing you do. Or I haven't done this, but I'm pretty sure I need to do this. Here's the training that you need to go consume to learn how to kind of execute that for me. And so if you can kind of get those two things down, finding someone that's like buys into it's just super cheesy, but like, we have a 30-person team now. I can tell you from personal experience, like people that buy into the vision, that's going to come into handy whenever there's overtime that needs to happen, whenever they need to choose your work over their kids, softball game, whenever it's like they need to choose your work over someone else that's offering them more money to come work for them, and instead they're going to stay at the same rate and work for you. That all comes into play when you have someone that buys in your vision, and then making sure your company itself is ready for the systemization. Like that's what we do at Scaling with Systems, is like we'll work on not only give them the VA, but also make sure like, hey, when you get this person in your company, you'll be ready from day one to kind of take off instead of just being like fumbling around, not even knowing what to give them in the first place.
So good, Ravi. Those are amazing, excellent tips. And I love what you said, man, about finding people who buy into the vision, which is huge. We talk about that a lot. Number two, making sure that they have the soft skills inherent, right? Instead of, always focusing on the hard skills, which usually can be trained. And then number three, man, making sure that there are clear SOPs in place, right? Systems, processes, whatever you want to call them, that they can follow, right? Because so many times the breakdown isn't just a people issue. Sometimes there are people issues, but it's oftentimes a systems issue. And as leaders, we have to take responsibility for that, own that, and then work on our systems so we can better empower our people.
Yep.
And so that's huge, man. Love that. Those are incredible. Well, Ravi, this has been incredibly valuable, man. Before we wrap, how can people get in touch with you? Let's say they were like, man, I want to learn more about scaling with systems. I want to learn more about, how to hire great VAs for my business. How can they get in touch with you best?
Yeah. First of all, Richard, thanks so much for having me on here. This has been a blast. I mean, for you to just like really selflessly, after we had been talking just for like a little bit, say, hey, can you come on here to your own private community, means a lot to me. So I first of all want to just give you total credit and say thank you so much for inviting me on here. I had an absolute blast. You're really well spoken as well. I've been, like I said, on 100 podcasts, and you're very well spoken, and I can see the passion and kind of the stuff you do. And I know you have the domain authority. So thank you so much for having me on here. Also, everybody else is listening. I hope you guys got some value out of it. Like I said in the very beginning of it, my COO always tells me that I really talk super fast. So I do apologize if I did. The best ways to find me is either A, on social media, just type in my first and last name, RaviAbuvala, and then B, scalingwithsystems.com. You can find a lot of information on there. I have a free course. Actually, I made a landing page for you guys. If you go to scalingwithsystems.com/impact, IMPACT, there'll be a free course where I go a lot more in depth in like finding these virtual assistants, training these virtual assistants, what the lead generation strategy should look like. And that might start giving you a good idea of what you should be doing right now to kind of scale and grow your company.
Incredible, man. Super, super great. So guys, again, thanks so much for everybody who is watching. Make sure you check out Ravi's materials. He's fantastic. And hope, guys, this helped you today. Whether you're, crushing it right now and things are going well for you, or maybe you've taken some haymakers and discouraged, hope that today not only encouraged you, but gave you some tangible next steps you can take to continue to seize our moment in history, right, as entrepreneurs, and step into that opportunity to show up powerfully, solve problems, and make money in the process. So Ravi, again, thanks so much for being on. And everybody, guys, thanks for watching. Have an amazing rest of your day. We'll talk to y'all soon.